before we get started, let me ask you this. Andrew, who are you?
Oh, I'm Andrew Hicks. I'm the Market Center Tech Trainer for Tampa, Clearwater, Bel Air, and now most recently Wesley Chapel. Um, I've been doing this for a little bit over a year, maybe about a year and a half now. I've been with KW. Before then, I was with Apple for around 7 years, doing a lot of training, coaching, some project management, and support and working with a lot of teams. So that's a little bit about me. I am not a real estate agent. However, I talk to them every single day and I get a lot of tips from them, and I get to see what actually works, what doesn't work, and what systems are really effective.
And X, can you tell everybody who you are?
Yeah, hello. My name is Xavier or X or Javier or Javi. All of the above work for me. So whatever works for you, that's totally fine for me. My wife and I have a team together here in the Tampa Bay area, and I am also a tech guy. So I'm a Keller Williams University approved trainer. What that means is I'm one of less than 200 people nationally approved to lead content for Keller Williams University. And I have a focus on technology and mindset. I really want to empower people to produce new results. And that's what I care most about. So today, Andrew and I are going to be partnering together, and we're both kind of fun. So there may be some humor, there may be some whatever in here. And there's some other Market Center Tech trainers that are like kind of fun, but not as fun as us. Okay. So
Really can't What we'll do, we're going to start off by asking a couple of questions, then we'll jump into it. And the title of the class may be a little bit misleading. We're actually going to be talking about opportunities, which is really the tool that can help empower you to use the systems that we all talk about, stuff in the MREA. So, Javi, go ahead and start off for us.
Yeah. All right. So when we think about models and systems of excellence, right? And you heard it earlier, you're going to hear it after the lunch break from Brady, most likely. Luxury is an experience, not a price point. Now, are there luxury price points? Yes. But what is that really trying to say? So you heard Tom in the panel earlier say, hey, sometimes the luxury clients start you off with something low end, right? They want to test you out, or you break into that. So my challenge to you is, if you didn't know they were a luxury client, how would you be with them versus, oh, they're a luxury client. And what's the difference? Oh, they have a bigger bank account, right? So the reason I say that is because personally in our business, we experienced that exact scenario. We had a for sale by owner that my wife went after, and it was $130,000 house. And then by doing an amazing job converting it and then selling that property, then that person, that client, actually owned 2 luxury properties in a resort golf community here in the Tampa Bay area. And one of them was 700,000, another one's like 1 point something million, right? And so those opportunities came from that. And the other part is connecting with your database, as already mentioned, relationships. People know people, so all of a sudden you can improve your price point just by taking care of people, right? So that's something that we've done. Our average price point just 3 years ago was like 180,000 or something, and now it's, I don't know, probably over 400,000. So it really is possible. And today, this session, models and systems of excellence, how can you use the opportunities, applet, and command to create some automation for yourself, make it a little easier to flow. And Andrew's going to show all the cool stuff that he put in the system that you can copy for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to provide something for you all to steal. But first, I just want to get a little bit of a I guess, poll here. How many people are currently using opportunities and have checklists built into them and actually move those little cards across that pipeline?
So let's put it in the chat. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Or yes, someone on your team does it for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you can leverage that part out, absolutely do it. Save yourself from some time. Anybody raising their hand? I'm looking through the cameras here. All right. I see a couple of people. Very good. All right. Nicole's got it. Very cool. Okay. So that's good. So how many of you have added checklists to your opportunity pipelines, to your different stages and phases and all that?
What's that?
Does anybody not know what a checklist is? right. Well, we will go ahead and show you how to do all of that. And I'm going to give you an example, kind of a starting off point of what to put into those checklists. So I'm going to go ahead and stop talking about it and actually show you what it looks like. So let me go ahead and share my screen here with you.
Awesome. So as Andrew's pulling that up, those of you that said, no, we're not using checklists, or what the heck is a checklist, you're going to see that now. And Joan, to your point, like you tried to use it and it was too time consuming. So here's what the biggest time consuming part is: setting it up. Most of us that don't have it yet are avoiding the setting it up process. Once you kind of get it going and understand the flow of it, which Andrew will kind of point to, maybe all of a sudden that time consuming part goes way down.
Oh yeah, it helps keep track of all kinds of stuff. So just as a quick overview, you can see I'm looking at my team sales pipeline for the opportunity here. You can see I've got a lot of potential income. I've got 2 deals currently in the active phase. You can see I have a very high price point, obviously. Now you'll notice these are all separated into different phases based on the transaction process. You've got your cultivate, where you're cultivating that lead or that contact; active, whenever you've assigned agreement with them; under contract, whenever you actually go under contract with the client; and then finally the close stage. Now we've got the exact same thing for the buyer sales pipeline. Those checklists are going to look a little bit different for each transaction type. And I've got an example for both of them on there. So just to give you a little bit of insight about what this GCI, potential and probable, means, this potential income number is based on the estimated gross commission income you're going to receive on the deals that are currently inside of your sales pipeline. The probable part is going to be dependent upon where those deals or those opportunities are at inside of this sales pipeline. Now, for those of you that have not used opportunities at a very high level, or have somebody else just do it for you where they put the transactions in, really an opportunity is just a container that holds all the transaction information. It's got all of your documents, all your contracts, the property information, the client information. It's got your commission requests, all of your offers. There's so much you can do with these opportunities. We do not have nearly enough time to go over even half of the stuff you can do with them in this 45-minute time slot, but we're going to go through it and show you some of the really cool things that can help save you time. Now, before I move on, are there any questions on this screen here or about opportunities in general? Any comments? Is anybody using it at a high level and find a lot of value with it? I know Ryan does. He's just kind of hiding out though.
This is where you interact. It's called interactive. Yeah. So look, here's a way to think about opportunities. An opportunity, it's a transaction, but typically a transaction doesn't happen until it's a transaction. So an opportunity as a whole is as soon as a client or potential client, someone in your database, raises their hand and says, I want to transact real estate. And that means buy, sell, invest, whatever, in a time frame that works for your business model, right? So on average, my wife and I will track business out to about a year. Some of the larger teams that do more online leads, those take longer to come to fruition. So they may track 16, 18 months out, while other teams may only track 3 to 6 months out. So whatever it is for you, when someone raises their hand, because if someone says, hey, I want to sell my house, and you're like, cool, when? And they're like, oh, in 3.5 years, when my kids graduate from school. Oh, okay, great. Is that an opportunity though? No, that's a consumer in your database you keep connecting with and building a relationship with. So you see the difference there?
Very good point. And yeah, so what we'll do, we'll go ahead and we'll jump right into it here. So if I click on any of these phases here, it's going to bring up multiple stages within that area, because the cultivating a lead, there's a lot that goes into it, from getting that lead initially to building an actual relationship and having a two-way conversation with them. So if I open up this area of our sales pipeline, the cultivate area, you'll see I've got a couple of different stages here. I've got one for watch, I've got one for nurture, and I've got one for hot. Now, I would recommend that anytime you get a serious lead, no matter who it is, if it's a serious lead, somebody reaches out to you about real estate, create an opportunity for it, start them off in here. All the information that you put in here is tracked within Command, so you can get your actual conversion rates for each and every contact. That way, at the end of the year, you can say, oh, it looks like I did this many transactions. I was able to bring in this many leads. So next year I can say, it looks like 25% of my leads that I get in end up as actual transactions, which is an awesome number. You should strive for that. But realistically, I do have these conversion rates added into our little file we're going to add in there. And if somebody can add that file into the chat, that gives you the outline of the checklist. You'll notice we have a 5%, a 7%, and a 10%. Now that's the likelihood that this deal is going to go from this point of getting the lead to actually closing. So every lead that I get, I've got a 5% conversion rate. That means that 5% of all the people that I bring in as leads are going to close a transaction. Now, what I'm going to do to show you the checklist, I'm going to move one of my listings. You can see I've got Scrooge McDuck here. So I'm going to move Scrooge McDuck's opportunity, this nice little tile here, from this publish listing. I'm going to move it to the cultivate stage. That way I can show you kind of how it works whenever you're moving them through. So I'm going to go back to my cultivate area. You'll notice it now says one. I've got one deal inside of that cultivate phase. Now you can see as I move this opportunity through this sales pipeline, at the very bottom, I've got probable income showing me that the total commission that I can expect to receive from here is 900,000, since that's the potential. The probable is going to be 5% of that GCI, which equals out to a small 45,000. Now, as I move this opportunity from this 5% stage to the 7% stage, you'll notice that probable income increases. So that's kind of a little example of what that looks like when you're moving them through the pipeline. Now, you're also going to notice I've got this little button here that looks like a checklist. And can anybody tell me what that might be? Hop on the microphone. Feel free to interrupt us anytime you have any questions. Anybody?
Grocery supply run?
Tasks.
Checklists. This is where we can add our checklists, and this is where we can view our checklist. So if I click right here in this checklist, it's going to tell me exactly what I need to do while this opportunity is in this stage. So as I'm nurturing that lead, I need to give that contact a follow-up call. What I can do is I can pick up the phone, call them, check that task off. That way we've got 1 of 3. I can add them to my monthly neighborhood nurture in DTD2 smart plans. Can add that on there. Now, if I have somebody on my team that does this for me, what I can do is I can actually assign that task, or your operations manager can assign that task as well. So if I hit assign, if I want my one employee, myself, to do this, I can click on assign. It gives me a list of everybody on my team. I can select that person. That way it's going to show up inside of their task list as something to do. Now I can also set a due date as well. If I wanted this to be done by 11:45, I could hit OK. That way it's going to send that task to that person to complete that specific step by that time. I can go through and I can check these off here. Now you'll notice 3 of 3. So I've completed all the tasks for this spot. So I'm going to move them over to hot lead. And you can see this checklist changes. I can click on it. And we've got different checklist items on here. Now I have different checklists for each and every stage of the sales process, this whole sales pipeline. If nobody's put in the chat yet, I haven't taken a look at it, but you can download it directly from there, and I'll make sure that it's made available to all of you as well. Now, another thing, I'm going to go ahead and just keep this right here. Now, you can also tag your opportunities. And it's really important to tag these opportunities with either attributes of the property, because these are just stuck directly with the property, the opportunity itself. And it gives you a little overview of what that property is about at a glance. If I've got a lot of deals going on and I've got a lot of leads in here, I want to be able to see at a glance who it is, what's the client's name, what their address is, and a couple of attributes of their property in case I have a buyer that's looking for something. I could connect the two on there. And Xavier, do you have anything to add for those tags or the naming of the opportunities here?
Yeah, so typically most of your market centers are going to require that the opportunity name is going to be the address once you're submitting it for compliance. However, we don't start that way. We typically start with, Scrooge McDuck seller. right? Like that. So you'll work that out and you can change that over time, not a problem. And yet the tags, they can be pretty powerful when you think about looking at your overall business, because there is an all opportunities tab. And once you go to all opportunities and you think, imagine as you're going through the year and you want to reconcile the previous year, or you're halfway through the year and now we're almost to the point where you're starting to do business planning for next year. So you think and you go, wow, how many luxury deals did I do? How many deals did I get from open houses? Or how many deals did I do with investors? Like that, whatever kind of tags are important to you, it's different than the contact tags. It's for the actual opportunities. So two separate things. And that's where it becomes pretty powerful when you look at those tags. You see how he has like +3 and test and +23. So test client 123 has 23 tags on it, right? Like, so whatever it is, you would be able to search and filter by that tag for your all opportunities. And that's where that becomes pretty powerful when you want to narrow your business down.
Yeah, I was trying to break it and find out what the max amount of tags were. There's a lot. So I'll go ahead and jump back to my main sales pipeline for my Andrew Hicks team by clicking right here. Now I moved Scrooge McDuck's opportunity back into active. I'm going to go ahead and click on here and show you another really cool thing. So I've got a step here for prepare listing. So let's say we already went on the appointment. We got to prepare the listing. They signed all the paperwork. We're good to go. I'm going to go to my checklist, and everybody on the team that's invited to this specific opportunity or is working with this client is able to see this information here, and they can complete these tasks. So you'll notice I have something called a client update. So what that's going to do is as soon as I check off this box, it's going to tell the system this was completed, and the client is going to be receiving an email with some information about what was completed. Now, these are the client facing ones. So if I check this off at the prescribed time of day that I set previously, it will send them an email with a list of all the client update tasks that were completed. So it's a way to automate some of that follow-up to keep your client inside of the loop. So I'm going to go ahead and just uncheck that and show you a little bit about that client update. So let me go ahead and hide this here real quick. There we go. So the client update, this is where you can choose exactly what time that client update email goes out. I have mine set to 10:30 a.m. So if I completed a bunch of tasks at 11 o'clock at night, I don't want to send them an email at that time. So the next morning at 10:30, all those tasks are going to be sent out in email showing our client what's been done. Now I'm just going to give you a quick view of what that looks like. So if I hit preview here, this is the email that they're going to be receiving. It's going to be branded to me. It's not going to be Irene Murphy. This is just an example. It's going to have your branded header here along with your DBA. It's going to have the address of the listing that we added into the opportunity. It's going to give us the first page of, the first photo that shows up on the MLS as well, along with whatever those checklist items were. So if it said it's now active on the MLS, that's what this is going to say. That whatever next step I have on there, it's going to display there. And you can see it's got a nice little message. It'll have your headshot here, all your information, link to download your app, and the branded legal footer. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out of here. Like I said, there's so much.
Scroll back down just a little, Andrew, right there, right where that shows the checklist items. So here's something to note for yourself, okay? It will send one email with everything you completed previously from the day before, okay? So you don't have to worry about, oh, I have so many checklist items that I needed to tell them I did. It'll only send one email and it'll show each of the items you did from the previous day. Now, let's say it's been a few days since you've actually marked anything complete, no problem. It's not just going to randomly send emails. Here's what your agent didn't do yesterday. It will only send it when something's been complete, and it'll send it the next day based on what was completed the day before. Okay?
That's right. That's exactly right.
That is exactly right.
So we've got Gary commenting on it. Always a pleasure to have him in our classes. So that's how those client updates work. And whenever you create these, you want to make sure that they're worded in a way that's going to make sense to the client. If I have somebody schedule photographer, client's not really going to care about that. They just want to know that the photographer was scheduled. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. And like I said, with each of these segments here, there's a different checklist that I've built out here based on typical transactions. Did anybody drop the that PDF in the chat of the kind of the outline, Javier? All right,
Yeah,
very good.
they were
Thank
in
you.
there. Yep.
Very good. So you can use that kind of as a launching point, just somewhere to start to kind of prompt your brain to start thinking about how to give a better experience, thinking about the way that you complete a transaction. And you can add as many steps as you want to. You don't have to follow mine completely. You can take steps out, you can add steps in, you can do whatever you want.
So where would we do that at, Andrew? Where would we actually go and create the checklist items?
It would be wonderful if we had an edit stages button, which we do. So if you hit edit stages here in the upper right-hand corner, it gives you a list of the different stage names, the probability, which is that probability that that deal, once it hits that point, that it's actually going to close. So when we're preparing the listing, there's a 45% chance we're going to close that house. Right now, probably a lot higher because of the way the market is. You can edit your checklist here. So from here, you can see I've got the ones that are client update checked. You can check or uncheck them as needed. You can add a checklist item. So we'll just say test 1, 2, 3. Save. We can make that a client update. And whenever we edit the checklist and the stages from right here, any opportunity that lands inside of that stage is going to have that checklist item. Now, if there's a one-off, let's say if somebody has a, I don't know, let's say, for example, Scrooge McDuck, he's got a vault at the bottom of his house with basically mountains of gold in it. So if we wanted to move him over to the showing, we don't want to have that mountain of gold inside of the house while people are walking through it and viewing it, because they're probably going to take some of it. So what we can do is we can make a one-off checklist item for each individual transaction if we'd like. So for this one, I'm going to say, I'm going to add an item, and this is only for this opportunity since I'm creating it right here. Since I'm not in that edit stages area, it's only going to be with this opportunity specifically. So let's see, remove mountains of gold from seller. Sorry, seller vault. And I can even just assign that to myself, and I'll say, let's do it before 11:50 or 11 o'clock. I'll hit save. Now this checklist item here is only for this specific opportunity. You can see if I move Bob Loblaw's opportunity over here, he's only got 3 checklist items. Since I added that one specifically to that opportunity, it stays with just that deal. Now, before I move on any further, are there any questions about these checklists or about anything that we've gone over so far in this? We've talked about adding the opportunities in, adding tags, going over those checklists, kind of the dashboard view of the opportunity and what all that means.
So Crystal had a good question that Brett responded to in the chat, and that was, well, hey, those probability percentages, are those going to update over time? And so, yes, that is exactly the game plan here. So at the moment, at this point in time, what the system's doing is it's collecting all those data points across all users. And then as we move forward, the Kelly artificial intelligence that's underneath the Keller cloud, that's where we store all this data in command, is actually going to be analyzing it. And the whole point of artificial intelligence is to collect data, recognize patterns, and then provide insights. What's that for you? That means it's going to actually make recommendations to you based on your business, and it'll be able to start telling you your specific statistics. So that is definitely where we're headed. Right now, you got to do that math yourself, or just use the baseline ones that everyone kind of uses to start out. And then eventually it just starts doing it all for you. That's the future of real estate. That's the future of the world, really.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's a really good point. And what you can do, you can even do that now. You can find your own conversion rates. If you're very purposeful about adding in your leads, all of your serious leads into this pipeline, you can calculate those conversion rates yourself. And you can find that in the reports area over here. That's a different class for a different time. Talk to your MCTTs, check out some training videos about those reports, and you can gain a lot of insights about your business just by doing that. Now, one more quick thing I do want to go over. I do want to show you what it looks like inside of the opportunity, since I mentioned that an opportunity is basically just a container. It's a briefcase containing all of the information for a specific transaction. So if I click on this opportunity, it's going to open it up here. If I needed to edit any of the information, I could hit this little pencil here. I can put in the important dates of the transaction, the date we set the appointment, the date the appointment actually happened, agreement 1, under contract, closed, we can update all that information directly from here. We can also update the property address. This one just so happens to be a $29 million listing in the Tampa area, which my birthday is coming up next month. So feel free to look into that. It might still be up on the market. But the way that this works is you'll see all these tabs here along the top. Now we've got our details tab. That's all the details for the transaction. We have a tab called seller profile. And inside of that checklist that I added on, it reminds you to create a login for your branded app for your client. That way they can log in and they can be connected to you. Now, my contact here is not registered with our consumer platform, so it doesn't show it on here. But if they are registered, if you do create a login for them or they create one for themselves, they're going to have access to the consumer guide. Now, it walks them step by step through exactly what happens inside of each stage of the transaction process. And it gives them a lot of information about it. So if somebody has a question about, oh, what comes after escrow, you can say, oh, check out the consumer guide. It's going to give you a lot of information, but here's the Cliff Notes version of it. You want more information? Check this out. And you can direct them directly to it. You can even customize that consumer guide with your own branding, with your own wording, really anything you'd like to. Now, the documents tab, this is where we keep all the documents for our transaction. So within that little tile, we've got a guide, we've got all the details for the transaction, we've got all of our documents. We also have an offers and commissions tab where you can add all the offers for the property into here. You can create a side-by-side offer comparison for your clients that looks neat. It has a seller's net sheet, all kinds of great stuff automatically generated for you as long as you put in that information. Your commission request, submit that directly to your MCA so you can get paid at the closing table. Really awesome stuff. We've got notes. You can add notes about the transaction. And then we have a timeline, which gives you a breakdown of exactly what happened on this transaction, this opportunity, at what time, and who did the action as well. Now, another really cool thing that I think is awesome, especially if you work with the team, is the discussion area. So if you're tired of emailing back and forth with everybody on your team about a transaction and what's been done to what, you can use this discussion tab right here. If I tap on discussion, I can see the entire history of the discussions that have happened with this opportunity, and they stick with this opportunity. So we don't have to worry about sending all those emails to our documents area to keep the records.
So we can see like Andrew Hicks has the best boss ever.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I am the best. But similar to Facebook, you can type in a message on here. Let's say, hello, Andrew, you are great. If I wanted to ping somebody on the team, I could just put in the @ symbol and it gives me a list of everybody on the team. If I select them, they're going to get pinged. They can jump in the conversation. And it works a lot like a Facebook post. So I'll be able to I can comment, I can favorite it, I can pin it to the very top as well. Now, another cool thing is you can add photos in here. So it looks like Andrew said, hey, Andrew, Scrooge wants us to add this picture to the MLS as well to display the vault size. And we can see that he's got a depth of 90 feet inside of his vault. And you can see you can have conversations with your teammates and remind them to do specific things directly from the discussions area. That way you're not picking up the phone, you're not texting, you don't have your communication spread out all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that discussion. Really cool thing if you work on a team or if you're a single agent, you can start a team account. You can have an admin or an operations person work with you. Lots of really cool stuff there. Those are some of the things that I wanted to show you. The checklist, the discussion, some of those features. We weren't able to do a huge deep dive into this. I want to leave a little bit more time open for questions. But within your market center, your MCTT should be doing a good job of teaching the opportunities. I know all the ones that are on here do an amazing job. I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing. But yeah, go ahead. And anybody have any questions about anything we've gone over?
Let's also open it up to, so what are some ideas you have about how to utilize the discussions section or maybe checklist items as some of you are maybe trying to break into luxury, or maybe you're on a team that may do that, or just as an agent in general? What are some ideas you have? I'd love to hear from a few people. Let's, unmute yourself and tell us what's an idea you have about that. Who wants to share first?
It's a great use, especially if you're using, you have a TC, transaction coordinator, with those discussions and going back and forth for opportunities, seeing where you guys stand with a couple of those contingencies and a couple of those contracts. I think it's a good point. So thank you for highlighting that, Andrew.
Cool. All right, next person. Brett, I see you unmuted yourself.
I was just going to say that that discussion board is really cool. I think when we speak about, I mean, it goes for all customers in general, but luxury especially, you got to have crystal clear communication. Communication's key. And what better way to do it than to communicate with the team all within command right there?
Awesome. Okay, how many people have a hard time letting go of control, right? So the leverage piece, you want, especially if you're thinking about providing a luxury experience, you've got to be able to leverage some stuff, right? So let's hold that thought and let's go to Nina. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Nina. What you got?
No, I just wanted to say that I have trouble letting go.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yes, I totally get it. Here's a cool thing, okay?
And I love the checklist. I really do. I didn't know about the checklist, and I work with opportunities a lot, and I flip it to whatever window it's at that stage, but then I keep forgetting to swap it over. And the checklist definitely helps.
Yeah, once you kind of gamify the checklist, like, oh, I gotta get it complete. Most people who are checklist people are also the people that need the checklist to be complete. So once you start to do that, then you're more inclined to remember to go move the opportunity card over and over so you can get to the next checklist item, right? Cool. Thank you for sharing, Nina. And, on that same point of like, being authentic there and vulnerable, like, yeah, I don't like letting go of control. And one of the cool parts about it is the timeline piece that Andrew showed us, where you can see every single thing that happens. What did my transaction coordinator do? When did he do it? Who did that? Who moved that thing? Who submitted that thing? I want to know. Oh, that was me. Whoops. Right. But it's a cool way to track everything in the business. Okay, cool. Crystal, what you got?
I just wanted to mention how I love how clean not only the offers email is, because that's a whole nother story for another day, but just how clean that checklist email is for people, because it makes you look like a complete rock star without even trying.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. It's super clean, and it's a side-by-side comparison. Your thoughts on the offer, the pros, the cons of the deal. It's wonderful. And it looks like somebody asked, is there a difference between using the team profile and the personal profile in KW Command opportunities? There absolutely is. If you're on a team profile, you have access to that cool discussions area. If you do not have a team set up, there's no discussion, because you just be discussing with yourself like I was, which doesn't really help anybody out. You can get a team account. You just have to speak to your MCA and leadership, and they can show you the path to get that done. But that's one of the main differences. There's a lot more that goes with the team side we can't really get into. But yeah, there is a difference.
So I think, those resources that were provided in the chat earlier, okay, those are checklist items you can think about. And today, when you think about enhancing the experience, especially for a luxury client, right, which may or may not be a certain price point, or may not be a certain amount of money in a bank account. But what you would want to know is that session we had with Kyle about contacts and the different pieces in there, and then the session before that where we had the panel. If you weren't taking notes, there were some awesome things that those agents recommended you do. But then what do you do with those notes? Where do you put those? Oh, those can be checklist items. See, because then it reminds you those are some cool things to do with luxury, period. Right. And so it's like, hey, not every listing is going to get the full treatment with photography and video and drone and right. It depends. And did you know that sometimes on a property, you can have more than one signpost or more than one for sale sign? right? So we had a luxury lakefront listing one time, and guess what we did? We put a sign on the main road, and we put one in the back at the lake, and we literally had people come to our open house via boat. They pulled right up to the dock, they got out, they checked it out. Now, would they have done that if that sign wasn't there? See, so you think about exposure, and then you think about what are the ways that we can enhance the overall experience, and that gets translated to the client so they know you're taking care of them, right? And you can't remember it all on your own. This is where this really helps.
Exactly. And one thing that they all mentioned, I was paying quite a bit of attention during the panel in the beginning. The one thing they all mentioned was consistently giving that luxury experience, no matter who it was, whether it's a $50,000 listing somehow that might exist out there, or the $2 million listing. So I'll go ahead and say that again real quick with a little bit more emphasis. Consistency is key. Using that checklist will help you stay consistent because you have a checklist saying you need to complete this before you move to this next step. So if you're getting ahead of yourself, it will make you stop, or it should make you stop and pause and say, I should probably do this first. That way I'm consistent. So that's the main point there.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we, just about 5 minutes left. What are the key like ahas or takeaways? And when I ask that, I want to know, what are you actually going to go apply in your business? Not what sounded cool that tickled your brain a little bit, and then it's not going to do anything going forward for your business. So let's hear from a few people like, I'm going to go take this action now, right? Based on what you learned today. So who would like to tell us first? And you can unmute yourself and tell us, or if you're not comfortable with that, or you're not in the environment to do that, put it in the chat. We'd love to hear it. Okay. So who's going to go first?
If you uncheck a checklist, would also be included? No, if you uncheck that checklist, it takes it out of that client update as long as it has not been sent. If you do it 2 days later and it's already gone, it won't undo it. But yeah, if you hit one on accident, you can uncheck it, they won't get it. So that prescribed time. But yeah, I'll put my contact information here as well. You just have to wait to the end and we'll put our information in there. But does anybody have any takeaways? What are you all going to start using today? Checklist, very good. Discussion feature. Is anybody on a team right now that's using discussions and using checklists at all there?
Okay, cool. We got quite a few things coming up in the chat now. Let's see what we got here. So the discussion feature, Kevin is going to dig back into the checklist for sure, right? Brett said the client update email. Nicole, the customer email checklist outlining what's been done was a real aha. That's super awesome. And Andrew's getting a new house party and we're all invited is what Jesse said. So Andrew, you have to now oblige by that.
If you all pitch in, we can reach that $29 million mark and we can give a needy person like myself a beautiful home. So I know you can all pull it together and make it work.
If
Andrew,
I learned anything from the panel
you didn't
earlier,
see it, but I put it in escrow and X said you have to make the mortgage payment.
Javier also said that he, put a cash offer in. So we'll have to see what happens. But here's what I know: you have to have wine and cheese, right? In addition to cookies. That I took that note earlier, right? And when you go to check out the property, you probably also need to find all the light switches. So maybe that's a checklist item for yourself when you're at the appointment or before you go live on the market, so that you can translate that to the buyer's agents. Because if a buyer's agent comes to show your luxury listing and they don't even know how to turn the lights on, how effective is that showing for the potential client? Maybe you just be there. That's what we do with all our luxury listings. Jackie doesn't let anyone show them unless she's there because she knows how to sell the home based on the information she got from the seller. Maybe that's your takeaway. That's a note that you have for yourself, right? So yeah. And then we've got, George said the tags are great. Nadine said she's also gonna apply the tags. Super cool. Look at all those ahas. I love it.
Yeah, lots around the discussion. So trying to get your team to start using the discussion tab. I would say start using it without them. Start pinging them inside of the discussion tab. If they send you an email about a deal, say, oh, just reply in the discussion. That way we can keep all the communication right in there. That way, when you're done with the transaction or closing, you don't have to create a giant PDF with all your emails and upload them into it. They're all right there already and stored for you.
And
Mark,
Andrew,
I see
how do you know that somebody's pinged you?
It'll show up inside of the notifications. Also, it'll let you know on Kelly. It'll ping you and say, hey, you have a new message on X discussion. It says Y, and you can go into command and check it from there.
Yeah, on that note, not just when you're tagged in a discussion, but also remember, Andrew showed you that you can assign tasks to people in opportunities checklists. So how cool is this? When this feature first came out, guess what I did every other day when I led a training? I tagged my wife the next day. And I thought it was the most hilarious thing. She said, why do I keep getting these notifications on my phone? Well, we weren't using it fully at that point, but the feature was available. So it was fun. And imagine in the future when you've got your phone and you've got a version of command like all the time ready to go in your business, and it boom lets you know when something happens, or you're the rainmaker and your operations person let you know you needed to do something, or vice versa. You're an agent on the team and they said, hey, go do this thing now, right? Mark, I saw your question. Could you unmute yourself and clarify? So it says, should we add tags to spreadsheet prior to uploading to the command database? Are you talking about the contact side, or are you talking about for opportunities?
Context.
Okay, yeah. So that's definitely, you can, like we saw the bulk add feature, definitely you could do that if your database is segmented properly. So what some people would do is if they're not putting the tags in on their spreadsheet before they import, then they're importing it in sections. And once you import a section, then you can bulk those and add the tag to it.
And the important thing to remember as well, I'll reiterate it again, the opportunity tags are completely separate from the contact tag. So if this contact loves boating, that's cool. Let that stay with that contact. If that contact loves boating and they're part of an opportunity, you can put one of the buyer needs inside of there saying requires boat dock or needs to be waterfront. They're going to be separate bags of tags. Best way to think of it, opportunity tags stick with the actual deal itself or the property. Contact tags stay with the person.
So if you're doing your D2 contacts, you would put those in the spreadsheet?
Yes. You could put in the spreadsheet there. For DTD2, I find it a lot easier just to get those contacts in first and then use my bulk tags, sort them all by last name ascending, go through, select them all, add that bulk tag, move on to the next one, add the bulk tag. I usually find that a little bit easier.
Hey, gentlemen, Annette had a question about what client updates to include. And I believe looking at the checklist that was provided in the chat, that would mainly be the active and under contract items. Would you agree?
Yeah, and you can really make anything a client update. Any milestone at all, something scheduled, some action was taken on the contract or on the property, the contracts were completed, submitted, XYZ. You can choose whatever you'd like to. I would recommend keeping it only to the important milestones. They probably don't care if you started the MLS listing. They probably only really care when you finish it and it's active. So keep that in mind, not to bombard them with stuff, but it's nice to have a little bit of automated communication to let them know certain things. So you're not picking up the phone saying, hey, bud, we're active in the MLS. That's it for today. Bye. It'll send that email out for you. That way they stay in the loop.
Yeah, it's also like a chain of communication that can also be referenced back. So Annette, how do you know what are those key milestone moments? Well, here's what I would say to that. It's just listening skills when you're in your consultation, right? So when you're with the buyer, when you're with the seller, hey, tell me what's important to you. And then when you know what's important to them, those are the things you make sure that get sent to them that say, hey, we did this. Hey, that got done, right? They don't need to know every little thing you do in your job because that'll be annoying. And yet some of it also internal for you to know and just little reminders. So it's not that, it's what's important to them. And you may not know what a key milestone is versus what's a key milestone for them. So the best way is just to ask, hey, what's important to you? And we'll make sure to let you know when those things get done. Oh, great. Or what would you like to know when it gets done? You could just ask. That's simple.
Yeah, Joan just mentioned something along those lines in X. To your point, it's in the consultation and discovering whether they're a D or a C, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and that was just put in the chat by Karen talking about his profile. So look at that, right? So that's pretty much it, Geraldine. You're not gonna customize that client update email besides actually updating your marketing profile in the command settings and connect settings, then it'll modify to all your stuff, but you're not going to modify the format of it at this time, just that it auto populates your information.
Yeah, and they are working on getting a few more options for you on that, but it's not there quite yet. Thought there was something else I wanted to mention.
Cookies?
Yeah. Oh, what's that?
Cookies?
Cookies?
I just thought maybe that was what you were going to mention.
Actually, if you all look under your chair right now, you all have cookies under your chair. So many of you did that. Why would you? How could I possibly do that?
I almost fell because I only have one arm and I couldn't support myself, so I didn't go back all the way under that. That would have been bad.
There are no cookies under your chair. However, if you do need to reach out to either of us, we're both going to put our emails here in the chat. Andrew Hicks at kw.com. And yeah, actually, Sebastian, you can find cookies in your browser. I went ahead and put cookies in everybody's browser. You're welcome.